Hey guys, welcome to another edition of the Cover 2 podcast. I'm Jared Smith.
And I'm Nick Nina.
And we are continuing our NFL predictions show. Our previous podcast was all about the NFC. Nick and I broke down every division. We told you who we thought was going to win each division, and even gave you our predictions for who would make it out of the NFC and represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. So now it is time to move on to the AFC. We will have more debates and more arguments and disagreements about who we think wins the divisions.
No, we don't argue, Jared. What are you talking?
Never. Both of our favorite teams, the Cowboys and the Cardinals, are in the NFC, so there will be no bias
100%
in this discussion at all. We are going to jump right into it with the AFC East, and obviously the New England Patriots have just dominated this division
Incredibly
for at least a decade. And at some point, you would have to say, why can't the Bills, Jets, or Dolphins be better, right? We understand how great the Patriots are, the Patriot way. They've had Tom Brady and Bill Belichick for year after year after year. But the fact that those other three teams in the division have not been able to be competitive. Honestly, the last time...
It's funny.
The last time that one of these teams was competitive was when Mark Sanchez was drafted out of USC. His first 2 years, he took the Jets to the playoffs with then head coach Rex Ryan. And that was 8 years ago.
That was a long time ago.
So really, I'm looking at the rankings from last year. The Patriots were 11-5. The Dolphins were 7-9. The Buffalo Bills were 6-10, and the New York Jets were a pathetic 4-2. So this segment right now about the AFC East is not about the Patriots, because we all know how great this Patriots team is and what they are capable of doing. This is about the other three teams in the division. Can one of you teams please step up and challenge the Patriots so that they do not cakewalk their way through the AFC East, please? I'm not saying any one of these other teams will win the division and dethrone the Patriots. I would just like to see a little bit more competitive football out of the AFC East.
Yeah, and we get it. Miami beats them every couple of years, but then they suck and they don't make the playoffs. So, yeah, this is I always hate almost wasting predictions on a division every year.
And this won't take long.
No, it won't. This would be quick. The AFC won't be shorter than the NFC one simply because of the AFC East. But I think the only team that can even sort of be competitive in this division is the New York Jets. Sam Darnold's second year. Their defense is starting to look like a legitimate defense now. A little more offensive weapons. Le'Veon freaking Bell. But still a very, very young team. And as we've seen in the past, running backs usually don't make a difference. Special case with Ezekiel Elliott and their offensive line and their defense there in Dallas. But I just think, it's Patriots year. I do think
it's Patriots year every year.
It's a new year. I mean, you probably could go back to we've done this prediction show
it's the Patriots
for at least
year.
3 years.
It's been the Patriots year every year. Come on.
It is. It's the Patriots year, man. You gotta give them credit. But barring a Tom Brady injury, this is the Patriots division. I do think the Jets. I'll give a prediction right now. Jets will steal a game from the Patriots this year. They'll win a game in New York. When the Patriots go and travel to MetLife Stadium, that awful stadium in New Jersey, sorry, personal preference, the Jets will steal a game. I know they were 4-2 last year. The defense is solid. Sam Darnold will play his ass off, and they will. I think they'll steal a game in New York. But besides that, the Dolphins are the worst team in the league. The Bills regressed, and so I think it's Patriots. They'll end up 11-5, 12-4, 13-3, something like that. They'll win the division. The Jets, I don't think will make the playoffs, but they will be the most competitive team in the rest of the division. Anything else to say about the AFC?
No, not really. Listen, I would love to see the Jets make the playoffs. I'm a huge fan of Sam Darnold. Obviously, he played at San Clemente High School, which is just less than 30 minutes down the street from us. Very, very close in Orange County. So, and I also followed him as well as you did when he was playing.
He played against my high school my senior year.
Exactly. So, we know what Le'Veon Bell brings to the table. As far as the receiving core, Robbie Anderson and Quincy Enunwa, they're respectable receivers. They're not going to blow the top off. Well, Robbie Anderson might be able to, but they're not going to, more than likely, not going to get 1,000 yards or anything crazy like that. But they're respectable receivers, and I think they upgraded their offensive line. They got Colicchio Simile from the Raiders to really help that interior and keep Sam Darnold upright. The defense, they got C.J. Mosley. You obviously have the Pro Bowl and Jamal Adams, Leonard Williams, Quinnen Williams, who they drafted number 3 overall. Right. So defensively, especially up front, I think this team can do something. I would like to just see one of these teams, and I hope it's the Jets, challenge for a wild card spot, right? Because we all agree the Patriots will more than likely win the division, right? Unless they just get a plethora of injuries. But I would like to see this young Jets team with Le'Veon Bell, a healthy Le'Veon Bell and a motivated Le'Veon Bell, come out and challenge for a wild card spot so we have something else to talk about in this AFC East division other than the New England Patriots.
All right, moving on to the AFC North. There's a lot of questions with this division. This is probably one of the hardest ones to predict in this entire 2-part show that we're doing here. You have the Baltimore Ravens, very good defense. Offense is led by Lamar Jackson, right? You have the Pittsburgh Steelers. Defense isn't that good. Lose Antonio Brown. Still have Big Ben and Mike Tomlin, right?
And Juju.
And Juju.
Don't forget Juju.
I apologize for forgetting.
Don't forget Juju.
I didn't forget about him. I just didn't mention it.
I got your back, Juju.
Yeah. Then you have the Cleveland Browns, who everyone is super excited about. What will they do in Baker Mayfield's year 2? Odell, Jarvis Landry, defense still pretty solid.
They're the paper champions right now.
Yeah,
on paper,
absolutely.
They're legit.
100% good news that thing downloaded, by the way. So we're good on that. But and then you have the Cincinnati Bengals, who I think we could agree is the worst team in this division. Unfortunately, Andy Dalton has just not proved to be a great NFL quarterback. One of the worst playoff performers in history, and they're without AJ Green to start the season. So
Huge loss.
Extremely lost. This defense has gotten worse and worse every single year. They have gotten away from that kind of thug moniker that they've had the last couple of years. But in turn,
no more Adam Pac-Man Jones, no more Vontaze Burfict.
But in turn with that, they're not very good on defense because those guys were good. They just their actions on the field cost them some big games. But so this team, I think you can agree with me, it's the worst team in this division, unless you're going to say one team is worse than the Bengals. But I don't think you can say that. So Jared, give your thoughts on the big three, the 3 teams. In reality, are the Browns all that they're hyped up to be?
They are. I mean, listen, yes, I just mentioned on paper, they are one of the, if not the most talented teams in this division. You have the addition of Odell Beckham Jr. And listen, even if for some reason he's not the huge receiving threat that we've known him to be in New York, the fact that he is lining up on the field, if you are a defense, you have to know where Odell Beckham Jr. is. You have to double team him, and you have to put your best corner on him, which means Jarvis Landry is going to get more open looks. Njoku is going to get more open looks. You have the running backs with Chubb, and then eventually after Kareem Hunt serves his 8-game suspension, he will be back. I think Baker Mayfield, he has a plethora of offensive weapons to throw to, and even though he's looked a little sketchy so far in preseason, I believe that's because he hasn't really played with all of his ones. Yeah. Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry have not played in the preseason so far, but this team has a chance if they all buy in and put their egos aside, because I think there's a lot of egos on this offensive side, right? If they can put all of that aside and say, all right, I'm going to sacrifice a little bit of my stats so that some of my other teammates can play well and we can sacrifice so that we can win, if they can all buy in, I like this Cleveland Browns chance to be in the running to win the division. I'm not going to sit here and say they are, and that's because I haven't seen it before, and I'm not a big fan of crowning a team as a division champion or a champion in general if I haven't seen them have some type of success. And obviously, the Cleveland Browns for over a decade have been horrific. Yeah. So this is a huge turnaround from this team, but I'm still hesitant because we haven't seen them all on the field at once. So I like what the Browns have done, and I'm very excited to see what they do. But for right now, I'm going to, kind of pump the brakes a little bit and wait to see what they actually do once they get on the field. The Pittsburgh Steelers, to me, this is an interesting team because they got very young on defense. They drafted that Michigan linebacker, Devin Bush, who I think is going to be an absolute stud for them. He's going to replace Ryan Shazier as that eventual leader, quarterback of the defense who kind of gets everyone lined up and calls the plays. I think they've gotten younger and faster on defense. Obviously, on the offensive side of the ball, you've got James Conner, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Ben Roethlisberger now as their big three. Will Juju be able to have the same year stats-wise without Antonio Brown on the other side, right? Because now everyone is going to be focused on Juju. So will he be able to still create and make plays? Will Vance McDonald have to step up now and be the full number one tight end after last year? He only played about 50% of the snaps. Can James Washington, Eli Rogers, Ryan Switzer, can some of these other guys who maybe not everyone knows about step up and make plays for this team? A lot of unknowns at the receiving spot for this team. So that's where I also am a little skeptical of where this team can go. I think right now this is the Ravens' division to lose. And I say that because of their defense. Their defense is elite. I think they are top 5 easily defense in the league. Obviously, Lamar Jackson, he brings a different style of offense to this team. They are going to run the ball. They're going to do a lot of different RPOs and stuff like that with Lamar Jackson. And as long as they can control the ball and play solid defense, the Ravens, it's their division to lose.
Yeah, again, you make a lot of good points with this. I'll start from the top down and talk about the Browns at the end because I think they're the most fun to talk about. But the Ravens, I'm not going to say it's their division to lose because Lamar Jackson is just, I don't trust him. So this is a very difficult division. I think all 3 teams are so almost equally balanced because they all have serious flaws, but they also, their rosters are all really good. So it's hard for me to say that it's one team's division to lose. But I think if you had to pick, if a gun to your head and you had to pick which team should be the best team in this division, I agree. It's the Ravens because their talent as a whole, besides Lamar Jackson at quarterback, is elite, like you say. And although their running back situation is a little iffy right now,
They got Mark Ingram. They brought him over from the Saints.
That's true. But Mark Ingram he's been a very simple, solid running back, average running back. To think that he's going to all of a sudden turn the corner and become elite is tough to say. But you also have Lamar Jackson as a runner, so the running back position doesn't matter as much when you got a guy like that. But yeah, Lamar Jackson, we'll see if maybe last year a couple of those wins were caused by just unawareness of Lamar Jackson's skills and having not seen a type of guy like that. But there was a couple times where he really poo-pooed the bed there in some of those games and was a major reason why the Ravens lost games. So defense can win you a championship, but a quarterback could also lose you big games. I'll say that all day. Steelers still have Big Ben. Anytime you get an elite quarterback like that, one of the best of all time, you have a chance. He reminds me a lot of Russell Wilson. Every single year, whether the roster is good or not, they're going to have a chance to make the playoffs because Big Ben is so good. I think this offense and the locker room overall will be a little bit better in the head without the Antonio Brown distraction and without the Le'Veon Bell distraction. And then, of course, they lost Ryan Shazier a couple years ago, too, and that was it. So, and they had the whole kneeling controversy. So I think this might be the first year in a while where it's controversy-less going into the regular season. I haven't heard anything about the Steelers in this preseason. It's been about their former player who can't deal with his helmet and all that stuff. So, and I heard a funny thing. We were obviously a lot of people have been watching Hard Knocks. The Hard Knocks ratings in the Pittsburgh area were triple.
Skyrocketed.
Yeah, so the fans are watching what a lot of people might perceive to be like kind of the destruction of the Raiders because of Antonio Brown. It's going to be very interesting, but this team is very clear-headed. I think that they're my favorite to win the division. If I have to pick, I'm going to pick the Steelers to win this division because I think they're a little clearer-minded. Defense is getting a little bit better. They had that replacement finally for Ryan Shazier, like you said, and Devin Bush. And I just think this team overall will just get some extra wins this year just based on the fact that they're better in the head. Moving on to the Browns. See, the thing with the Browns here is obviously you have Baker Mayfield, who showed out to be a very, very good quarterback last year. You have Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry on paper. That's one of the best, if not the best, wide receiving core in the NFL.
Arguably.
Yeah. Running back room, very solid, right? And then they gained Kareem Hunt eventually during the season as well. You can say whatever you want about Kareem Hunt, but they gained him. The offensive line, solid. Their defense, although they lost Jabril Peppers with the Odell Beckham Jr. trade, still a very solid defense. The thing with them is, what's interesting about them is they ended up the season 7-8-1, right? Did they have 2 ties last year? I'm trying to remember, or just 1, right?
Last year the Browns were 7-8-1, just 1.
Okay, they had, I counted 10 games where the game was decided by 8 points or less. In those games, let me just count it up really quickly.
So basically, touchdown.
Exactly. Where you could lose or you could win, right? In the beginning of the season, they lost a lot more of those games than they won. Later in the season, they won a lot more games when they did. Early in the season, they didn't have Baker Mayfield playing the first 3 games. Later in the season, they did. So, looking at this team, they should be the best team in this division. I just don't trust Odell and Jarvis Landry and Baker Mayfield and all of these big-time personalities to gel perfectly in this first year. And I think that's what will take away wins this year. When Odell or Jarvis Landry isn't getting the proper touches. Jarvis Landry has the most receptions by far the last few years. It's not even close. He's not going to get that this year with Odell on this team. Odell, we've seen obviously be a giant diva during the season, whether it be punching a kicking net, on a boat with rappers, right? Major injuries. He hasn't been able to stay healthy a lot in his career. And then Baker Mayfield, year 2, a lot of times teams figure you out. That sophomore slump is the thing. It happened with Cam Newton. It's happened in the past with a lot of other guys, especially first-round picks. All that, first year it's great, all that, and the second year it's a little different. So I see the Browns, definitely could see them making the playoffs. I just think they're going to lose some big games because of the egos on this team. Will take away some wins, but they are a very good team and they could easily win this division. They could easily make the playoffs, but I'm not going to say that. I think the Steelers are the best team in this division.
All right. It's tough to argue. I mean, Ravens, Steelers, Big Ben, yeah, one of those teams where quarterback driven, he stays healthy, you can see them making the playoffs. He's not healthy, something happens to him, and that team can completely fall apart. It's Ravens and Steelers right there, 1-2.
Do you have the Ravens number 1 though?
I do have Ravens.
Okay, so disagree on that one, but I think it's a very fun division to watch. Lots of wins where they're not supposed to be wins, and a lot of losses where there's probably not supposed to be losses as well. All right, moving on to the AFC South. Wow, this division gets a little interesting the last couple of days. I think on paper, just what happened on Saturday with the loss of Lamar Miller for the Houston Texans, and obviously the retirement of Andrew Luck, it throws a whole wrench into anything I thought about this division.
This is the most wide open division I think we have in the NFL this year.
Yeah, no, 100%. I legitimately think all of these teams have a chance to win this division. There are some favorites, obviously, but the loss of Lamar Miller as your major running back with Houston and the loss of Andrew Luck clearly has made me have to rethink some things about the Colts and Texans. The Tennessee Titans and Jacksonville Jaguars have not lost anybody to this point. And so I don't even know where to start. I mean, I guess we probably should start with the Indianapolis Colts. And we're not going to jump into the Andrew Luck stuff because we obviously posted a short little 15, 20-minute podcast about this last week. So we're not going to jump into that. But
check that out on Jared Smith's my YouTube page, my Facebook page, and or the Cover 2 Podcast YouTube page if you want to see our quick 15, 20-minute analysis on the actual Andrew Luck retirement.
No,
so we
but
won't necessarily go
we're not going to jump in that. We're going to jump into the roster as it is right now with Jacoby Brissett as quarterback. I just don't. I don't. I've never seen anything out of Jacoby Brissett that would prove to me why this team would make the playoffs with him as their quarterback. Maybe they go out and sign Colin Kaepernick or somebody like that. That's for here to be seen. It's kind of in flux right now. But with Jacoby Brissett as quarterback, I know the rest of that roster is pretty good. I cannot say they're a playoff team. Jared, what are your thoughts? Obviously, haven't been able to look into this whole team, and Jacoby Brissett was not expected to be the quarterback. So, what do you have to say about them now without Andrew Luck?
Right. This is a tough blow, obviously, and we're just going to keep it about the football aspect of it right now, not necessarily about Andrew Luck. They obviously take a major step backwards. I think their defense is legit. Their defense is very young. Darius Leonard, I believe he was either Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Amazing. So many tackles.
Amazing linebacker. The defense is very solid, very underrated, because obviously a lot of the focus was on Andrew Luck in that offense. They basically surrounded the offense, starting with the offensive line, drafting Paris Campbell out of Ohio State. You've got Marlon Mack, who's a very, very good running back. Naheem Hines, who's a good kind of scat back. Everything was surrounding Andrew Luck and giving him better options with his weapons. So now you bring in Jacoby Brissett, and I think he's a very serviceable quarterback. And unfortunately, I think this team is a 5-6 win team. And it really is because they do not have a veteran quarterback that can get them over the hump. So unfortunately for this Colts team, they went from, in my opinion, winning this division to now being third or potentially fourth. I really think this is the Houston Texans division to lose. And yes, it was a huge blow losing Lamar Miller, but they did trade for Duke Johnson, who was formerly
they got lucky with that one.
They did get very lucky, and head coach Bill O'Brien did come out and say that they do want to have more of a passing attack with their running backs, and obviously Duke Johnson led the NFL a couple years ago with over 70 receptions.
He's actually better
out of the backfield
than Lamar Jackson.
So
that type.
Maybe
it's
Lamar Miller. So
maybe he's
listen,
actually blessing
it's a loss for the Texans because Lamar Miller is one of those in between the tackles running backs, and Duke Johnson is not necessarily known for that. But I don't think it is as huge of a loss as many other people think. I hope he gets himself healthy and he can come back next year. But I think the Houston Texans can still win this division because I think they still have an elite defense. The one question I have with the Houston Texans is Jadeveon Clowney going to show up?
That's a huge
because
thing.
All the indications were he was going to show up by week 3 of the preseason and come into play. To my knowledge, he has still not shown up, and we are now into the 4th week of the preseason. So a huge thing to keep an eye on, but you still got J.J. Watt. I think that defense is still very formidable, and because the Titans and Jaguars, in my opinion, I don't think they have the talent to really compete in this division. I think for those reasons, like I said, it's the Houston Texans.
You're saying for the division crown.
Yeah, it's the Houston Texans to lose. Listen, the Titans right now are not sold on Marcus Mariota, and that's why they traded for Ryan Tannehill to be their backup. So when you don't have, when you have 2 or more quarterbacks, that means you have none. So the Titans right now, yes, they've got some talent and some good play. Derrick Henry's a great running back, but I don't see the Titans on a consistent basis, and I don't see Marcus Mariota on a consistent basis playing up to the level that he needs to get the Titans to 9 or 10 wins to win. The Jacksonville Jaguars, listen, you got Nick Foles. He's shown what he can do coming in for an injured starter and leading his team to a Super Bowl and winning it. But this Jacksonville Jaguars team has a lot of holes, a lot more holes than the Philadelphia Eagles did. He will not be playing with the same talent that the Eagles did.
That's absolutely true.
So, for those reasons, this is the Houston Texans division.
I want to say that, but those things, there's 3 elements that they're affected. The loss of your clear starting running back so late in the preseason. That's 1. 2, Jadeveon Clowney. If Jadeveon Clowney doesn't play for them this year or doesn't play a bunch of games, that is a huge factor on defense. They are not as good on defense without Jadeveon Clowney. And 3, they obviously the Texans play a lot of the same teams as the Colts, the Titans, and the Jaguars. The biggest difference is they have to play the first place teams. That's the New England Patriots, That's the Baltimore Ravens, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs as well.
Tough 3
So
games.
that's, in my opinion, a lot of those are probably losses. So those losses end up, it's just like, that's where I think this division's so close, and we're gonna have one of those divisions where like an 8-8 team or a 9-7 team ends up winning the division, and we're all gonna be like, why do we redo the whole thing? Like all that stuff, because the NFL still allows home games for teams to win the division, even if they sufficiently shouldn't be based on their record. But so I think that the Houston Texans are the most talented team, and they have the best quarterback, but they could lose some games and potentially still lose this division, even with the loss of Andrew Luck. By the way, the Colts 100% would have won this division with Andrew Luck, in my opinion.
I mean, the way that they finished last year, they went into Houston and won a playoff game.
We killed them too.
Very easily.
Blew them out. Yeah.
They were about to ride that momentum into this year, obviously before the whole Andrew Luck news. So that put a huge damper not only in the Colts season, but I think in this entire division. And it's very, very sad.
No, yeah, and for the Titans, it's kind of like a lot like Jameis Winston, a lot like Jimmy Garoppolo, in my opinion, a lot like Cam Newton. Yeah, Mariota kind of needs to prove that you can actually be an NFL starting quarterback. He's had shades of greatness. He's won playoff games before, but he just isn't consistently good. And although he was great in college, he's been better than Jameis Winston, for example, but just not. Titans are kind of stuck in this like very average cycle where they make the playoffs sometimes, and then they just have no chance, right? Like there's no chance they win the Super Bowl, so you still need to reevaluate your team. And for the Jaguars, they've definitely regressed from the year that they almost made it to the Super Bowl. Although they have a better quarterback now in Nick Foles over Blake Bortles, their defense isn't as good, and their overall offense has gotten worse. And Leonard Fournette has proven in some ways to not be the stud running back that we all expected him to do, whether it be off the field issues or sometimes on the field performance. It's just, that team is really weird, and I would be very surprised if Nick Foles led them to a playoff berth. So I'm actually going to still pick the Texans to win this division, but I think every single team besides the Colts has a chance to win.
See, I'm going to disagree with you when it comes to the Jaguars and their defense. I think the Jaguars will be unsuccessful this season because of their offense and because of the lack of weapons.
But their defense is not as good as it was those years.
No, it's not. Okay, and this is another this is another on paper. This is like talking about the Cleveland Browns offense. I'm going to list off some names on this Jaguars defense, and you tell me that they can't be great. Okay, I know that they underachieved last year. In their secondary, they have A.J. Bouye and Jalen Ramsey. Arguably, and I'm going to say that's the best cornerback tandem that you have in the entire NFL.
What about Talib and Peters with the Rams?
No, A.J. Bouye and Jalen Ramsey is better. I think that's better. Talib and Peters. Talib is a great shutdown corner. Peters, in my opinion, I think he's kind of I think he's tampered off a little bit since he's a little overrated. A little overrated. So A.J. Bouye and Jalen Ramsey, I'm taking it. They are the best cornerback tandem in the league. Up front, you've got Marcel Darius, who's a former first-round pick, Calais Campbell, and Yannick, I'm not even going to say his last name. Ngakoue, thank you. He is a beast, came out of nowhere last year. That's just their front line. Then the linebacker, you have Miles Jack, who is a complete stud, and then Jake Ryan, who came over from the Packers. This defense, if they can stay healthy, this defense is legit. The problem is, the offense, I don't think, is going to be able to score enough points.
The offense is terrible.
So that's why. You said the defense isn't that good. I disagree with you.
No, I just say it's not. I thought the year they almost went to the Super Bowl, that was one of the best defenses I had seen in the past 10 years.
Right.
Like, the talent, some of these guys have performed, but Marcel Darius, a little past his prime. Calais Campbell's not going to have the same year he did last year. Ngakoue, great. Miles Jack has still not turned that corner. Jake Ryan, so I could say stuff about them, but but this is one of the reasons why I said this is why I'm saying the Texans aren't just going to win this division, because I think the Jaguars defense wins championships, defense also wins games, and regular season is all about winning games. So I'm giving the Jaguars a chance. Their just offense is terrible.
Right, we do need to move on. Yes. I think we can both agree this is the Houston Texans division to lose, but we would not be surprised if there was another team who kind of swept in there.
Yeah, so we got Texans for that division. All right, moving on to the AFC West. This is the last division we're going to be talking about on this podcast. We got some great teams in this division.
Very tough division.
Yeah, it's I think all of these teams are going to be competitive this year.
Really?
Potentially 2 of them being Super Bowl contenders.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Legitimately. But this is a good division. It's not necessarily
No cakewalks.
Yeah, no cakewalks in any of the games. But also there are 2 teams that I think are better, and those 2 teams are the Chargers and Chiefs. Last year, neck and neck, Chargers were able to go into Kansas City and win a game.
That was a crazy game.
The Chiefs probably should have gone to the Super Bowl if they would have got the ball in overtime. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, right, those teams, in my opinion, toss up for who I think wins the division. It's going to be very difficult. So I'm interested to see who you think is going to win the division. The Denver Broncos, they add a somewhat legitimate quarterback, Joe Flacco. The last couple, just wait. The last couple of years, Case Keenum, Paxton Lynch, a lot of these guys that without great talent have not been able to get over the hump. With talent, you see Case Keenum the 1 year in Minnesota, albeit they threw a Hail Mary on one play to get a little further in the playoffs. The Vikings were very good with a lot of talent. So, Joe Flacco, I just think is a better quarterback than they've had since they had Peyton Manning. Defense, still very good. Emmanuel Sanders on offense looks like he's a little bit rejuvenated. The running back room is underrated, I think, in Denver. So they'll win some games. You never know. They could make the playoffs if they can steal a couple wins. I think they're a lot like the Jaguars, where the offense isn't as good, but the defense can win you some games. And obviously, altitude does affect a lot of teams, too, when they go play up there as well.
That's very key.
And the Raiders. And the Raiders are improved. The Raiders are better than they were last year.
Hey, they're on Hard Knocks, so we're talking about them.
No, they are better than they were last year. Antonio Brown, helmet issues, foot issues aside, he's still one of the best wide receivers in the game. And he will make them win some games. Derek Carr, he's a very solid quarterback, has proven at times to not be the guy, and has proven at times to be the guy. So with Derek Carr, we're going to get maybe adding a guy like Antonio Brown puts him over the hump. I think their offensive line is a little bit better. Their defense is improved. Not ready to say they're a playoff team yet, but they can definitely potentially steal some wins from some pretty damn good teams in this whole AFC in their whole regular season schedule. Moving back to the Chiefs and Chargers, I'm gonna say it. I think Chargers are gonna win this division. I think their roster is just loaded. The one thing that could not have this happen is Melvin Gordon not playing for this team.
And I don't think he's coming back anytime soon.
No, not anytime soon, but I think they have enough of a roster around it, and it's such a good defense that I think they can still win with Austin Eckler and Justin Jackson. Yes, Melvin Gordon is better, but he's not Ezekiel Elliott. He's not Le'Veon Bell.
That's true.
A tier lower than those guys. He's more around the range of David Johnson, someone like that. Top 10 running back for sure, top 7, but maybe not top 5, right? So I don't think his impact, and the fact that there's Justin Jackson and Austin Eckler who played a lot last year in some of Gordon's absences, I just think on paper this team will still end up winning the division even if Melvin Gordon misses a couple games. Now if he gets traded or something like that, then that maybe could change my mind, but I just think the Chiefs, they're amazing. Patrick Mahomes is there. Tyreek Hill is there. Running back position isn't as good without Kareem Hunt. But I just think that the Chargers are going to be looking at a 13-3, 12-4 year, to be honest. And I think Phil Rivers, it's one of his last few years to possibly win a Super Bowl. The defense is now a lot of Joey Bosa's in his second year. Second year or third year? Third year, correct. And although they lost Derwin James as well, I just think that they're so stacked overall as a roster. I think they're the best team in that division. I think Chiefs are A1. I mean, I think a lot of those Chiefs-Chargers games like last year are going to matter in determining who ends up being the AFC West champion. But I think the Chargers last year going into Kansas City and winning that game proved to me that they are legit and that they could win this division. I'm not going to say Super Bowl contenders yet because they got their pardon my language, their asses kicked by the New England Patriots last year in the playoffs. That shouldn't have happened, and I'm super disappointed in them for doing that last year. But I'm going with the Chargers. Who do you have in this division?
Listen, very, very tough to go against you when you talk about the Chargers. The reason why I don't have the Chargers winning this division is because I think they have there's so many question marks about their defense. And I haven't even gotten to their offense with the lack of their running back, potentially saying that he will miss multiple games, potentially the whole season, right? Austin Eckler, Jackson, those are formidable, solid backup running backs, but the key word there is backup.
Well, they're better, like, for example, when you're looking at the Cowboys situation, there's a giant drop-off between Ezekiel Elliott and the guys they have behind him. I think there's not as big of a drop-off with Melvin Gordon to those two guys.
So I hear what you're saying, but I think the only reason why there isn't a drop-off necessarily, I don't think it's from a talent standpoint. I think it's from an experience standpoint. The Cowboys brought in Alfred Morris, who is experienced. Other than that, they drafted Tony Pollard, who obviously has not played a down of regular season football yet, and they have Darius Jackson, who's bounced around the NFL so far. So from an experience standpoint, I think you're completely right. The Chargers are a little more well-equipped to handle the loss of their running back who is not there. Listen, you ask a lot of Phillip Rivers every single year, and every single year he's one of those quarterbacks, just like Matthew Stafford. In the regular season, he's going to put up the stats. He's got the receivers on the outside to do it, and he's got the tight end in Hunter Henry, who's finally healthy from that torn ACL last year. He's going to put up the stats. In the playoffs, that's what it really matters, right? He's been in the league long enough. We know what he is. He can do it in the regular season. We have not seen him do it in the postseason. As far as his defense goes, they are legit. But the fact that you lose your all-pro safety, and he's more likely going to be out for at least half the year. Joey Bosa has had multiple injury problems, as well as Melvin Ingram. So Denzel Perryman, who is a very, very good middle linebacker, he's also been banged up. So the fact that this defense can never seem to quite be on the field together as a full first-team unit is kind of what has me a little skeptical. They were able to still make the playoffs last year with all those injuries. I'm just not so sure that they can do it back-to-back years. So in saying that, I'm giving this division to the Kansas City Chiefs because they have all of their offensive weapons coming back, except for Kareem Hunt, of course. But we saw that their running backs in Damian Williams and with the addition of Carlos Hyde, I think they can be very, very formidable in the type of offense that Andy Reid wants to run. And when I look at their defense was Swiss cheese last year. You and I could have run against their defense last year. It was pathetic. Yeah. Guess what they do? They bring in Tyrann Mathieu. They draft Juan Thornhill, the safety out of Virginia, in the second round. I think that's going to help shore up that back end. And then you trade for Frank Clark, the defensive end from Seattle.
In my opinion, that's the biggest difference.
I think that's huge. They're switching to a 4-3 defense. So, it's not going to be as much more about scheming and all these crazy blitzes. It's going to be about sound, solid defense. And listen, we know that this Chiefs team can put up 25, 30 points like that. All this defense needs to do is be average. They weren't even average last year.
Point, yeah.
If this defense can just be average, this Chiefs team is winning 12 games.
It's going to be disappointing, though, them being average, because we had some amazing games for the Chiefs
I know,
last year.
But what I'm saying is all they have to do is just be a little better than they were last year, and this Chiefs team gets 12 wins, in my opinion. So I'm giving this division completely to the Chiefs right now. I think they're just stacked, and like I said, they've upgraded positions on defense. They have a new defensive coordinator. I think that's going to kind of bring some new energy and new life to this team. So I give it to the Chiefs. I obviously talked about the Chargers and where I think they are. I think they can definitely be a wild card playoff team, but because of all those injuries and just potential injuries, I can't count on them to make it to the playoffs. The Denver Broncos and the Oakland Raiders, I'm kind of going to put them in the same category here. They're both teams that you're not going to be able to just run over. The Denver Broncos still have a great defense, but I'm not sold on Joe Flacco, right? Obviously, they drafted Drew Lock out of Missouri to potentially be the franchise quarterback of the future, but he's not going to start at least for the first few games. They want to see what Joe Flacco can do with this team. Phillip Lindsay is a great running back, obviously coming out of university or staying in Colorado, staying at home, and being able to play in front of his home fans. And I think he's a great running back. But Emmanuel Sanders is coming off an Achilles injury, and really, Cortland Sutton, yes, he's a good number 2. Can he really pick up the slack? You have Deshaun Hamilton, I believe, out of Penn State, who's kind of their number 3 receiver. They drafted Noah Fant, who I really love out of Iowa, but I'm just not so sure with Joe Flacco at the helm that from an offensive standpoint, they can score enough points to be competitive on a consistent basis. Defensively, they will keep them in games. Can they score enough points on offense to win? I don't believe so. And when we talk about the Oakland Raiders on Hard Knocks, you obviously bring in the addition of Antonio Brown. That is a huge upgrade, and I think that is going to catapult Derek Carr, to becoming a better quarterback. It's his second year in John Gruden's system. They upgraded some defensive positions. They brought in LaMarcus Joyner over from the Rams. They brought in Vontaze Burfict, who was with Paul Gunther in Cincinnati. He's very familiar with that system. They drafted Clinton Farrell. You've obviously got Jonathan Abrams. So, the defense is very young, and I think they're going to be better than last year. But will they be able to keep up with the Chiefs and the Chargers? I don't think so. So I've got the Chiefs and the Chargers as the 2 top teams in this division. But don't sleep on the Broncos. Do not sleep on the Raiders.
No.
They will not be pushovers. Those will be very, very tough games. The first matchup right out of the gate, we've got the Oakland Raiders and Denver Broncos on Monday night. That's going to be a smash-mouth game.
It's a big game.
I think those 2 teams are going to beat each other up. The Chiefs and the Chargers are going to beat each other up as well. But I'm telling you right now, the Broncos and the Raiders are going to be very formidable teams.
No, yes. So that's the end of our full predictions. Let's go over it again. In the AFC West that we just talked about, I have the Chargers winning the division. You have the Chiefs. I think we both believe both those teams probably wind up making the playoffs.
Agreed.
As well, regardless. But that's who we had in the division. I reluctantly say in the AFC South that the Texans can win this division. I personally think it's open to almost everybody besides the Colts. You're a little more high on the Texans, but we both do agree Texans win the AFC South. AFC North, we disagreed on that one as well. I think the Steelers are a little more clear-minded. You think the Ravens, it's their division to lose.
Let's go Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, there you go. You're behind the Jackson train. And, of course, the AFC East, I had the Miami Dolphins. I'm just kidding. We both had
I almost just slapped you for a minute.
We both had the New England Patriots. Obviously, clearly winning that division. We did this for the NFC. Let's do it for the AFC as well. Who's going to the Super Bowl in the AFC?
Kansas City Chiefs. Listen, think about this for a minute. Think about this. And this could have easily happened last year. This could have easily happened last year if we didn't have a bonehead, non-pass interference call. We could have had the Saints and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. How fun of an offensive matchup would that be?
And then look what happened in the Super Bowl, too.
If my Cowboys aren't able to make it to the Super Bowl this year, I'm rooting for the Saints and the Chiefs. That will be the highest scoring Super Bowl in the history of the NFL. Mark my words.
I am going to go with the New England Patriots. I can't. You just can't, they find ways to win every single game. Also, we never pick them, so maybe me picking them will switch around.
I like that.
You know what I'm saying?
I like where you're at.
But I really gained respect for the Patriots.
You're just now gaining respect?
No. Well, it was more, you have that kind of hate towards them because they always win. It was happening with the Golden State Warriors as well. And then you just realized how damn good they were. And you're like, okay, I'm really, now I kind of understand why this team wins every single year. So I'm going to go with the Patriots. I do think the Chiefs absolutely have a chance. I'm high on the Chargers as well. Besides that, I really think those are the 3 teams, but I'm going to go with the Patriots just because.
It's tough to go against it, but I'm just telling you right now, Chiefs and Saints.
Oh, I want that.
Come on, man. Oh, come on.
Yeah,
that would be fantastic.
No, yeah, exactly. But so this has been our AFC predictions. Go check out our NFC predictions that we did a week ago. I think it's around the same amount of timing that the other one was, so not too much of a difference as far as that goes. Also, go check out an analysis of Andrew Luck. And if we decide to do anything in between this stuff, obviously that is probably up on the YouTube page and you can already see that. But for Nick Nenad,
I'm Jared Smith.
This has been the Cover 2 Podcast NFL Predictions Special.